welcome to Casa Milan Studios. This is AC Milan Talk. We are ready for a new weekly episode, new fixtures and new performance to discuss with all the going song of our favorite team, both on and off the pitch. But let's not waste time. Welcome to my two guests. Welcome to Adriano Del Monte. Hi, Adriano.
Hello, guys. Always a pleasure to be back.
And welcome to Sheridan Bird.
Ciao, Licia. Good day, Adriano.
So, guys, it's a very important week ahead of the last dance of this Serie A season for Stefano Pioli's side. Let's start with our men's first team. Our final away fixture ends in defeat. The Rossoneri 3-1 loss after a performance less than incisive against Torino Zurich. Adriano.
Yes, we knew this one was going to be a challenge. We paid a lot of respect to Torino last week, who are still in the hunt for a European place, and they proved why they're on track for a top half finish for the first time in a long time. But obviously, from our perspective, not the performance we would have hoped for. Of course, the final match on the road, as you said, Licia, for the campaign. One match to come. But look, I try and put my mind into how it would be for a player coming in. Of course, you want to finish the season off on a high, but as you can see here, the work has been done. Second place is secure. So look, we want to see them finish off very strongly, but against a team that still had plenty to play for, that have been very strong at home all season. I mentioned their defensive record at home this season is the very best in the league. It was going to be a challenge, and unfortunately in the end, not enough for us on the night.
Sure, then we can say that the Rossoneri had a rocky start, but the game developed poorly for us, and AC Milan's reaction came too late.
Yeah, exactly. They tried to claw their way back into the game, as a good team should, but it wasn't quite enough. And I think it's worth mentioning that there was more defensive reshuffling with changes in personnel, and it's just really tough to be consistent over a season if you have to keep changing your defence. Now, obviously, it's no one's choice to make those changes. It's often due to, or exclusively due to injuries, with the odd ban, the odd player who picks up too many cards, let's say. But when you're switching the defence around and you can't do anything about it, it's always going to cause problems. I think history shows us that great teams, great achievements are built upon the bedrock of a settled back four, or back three occasionally. But this season, Milan have had to switch the numbers, switch the players around in the defence, and you need to have that almost telepathic understanding between defenders, and when it's different personnel every couple of weeks, which has been the unlucky situation Milan and Mr. Pioli have found themselves in, you are going to run into problems, and these were all goals from crosses that could have perhaps been dealt with a bit better, with a bit more communication. But Torino, they really blew Milan away in the first half, and then, well, that was a splendid goal. We have to give credit where it's due. And an ex-Milan, an old friend, not being so friendly perhaps today, Ricardo Rodriguez. It was a fine goal for him, so personal satisfaction for him. But yeah, Milan caught cold. But thankfully, at least a goal, a consolation goal, gol della bandiera, as we say in Italy, from the unshakable Ismail Benacer.
It's a hard defeat to take, especially after the great winning night against Cagliari, and especially ahead of the last Serie A match day of the season. But after the clash against Torino, our head coach Stefano Pioli talked to Milan TV, sharing his post-match reaction. Let's listen.
Quando in una partita così perdi più duelli, recuperi meno seconde palle, è chiaro che l'avversario ha avuto qualche situazione in più, ma è altrettanto vero che abbiamo subito 4 tiri in porta, credo, abbiamo preso 3 gol. Peccato perché però insomma non è stata la nostra serata migliore e potevamo fare di più sicuramente.
So not the best night, but the 2 goals scored in the first half made all the difference, Adriano, as Coach Pioli said.
Of course. And as Sheridan did touch on when we were having a look at the highlights there, perhaps they'd like to have those moments again to organise themselves a little better defensively, but that's what happens. Not so many shots on target, as Mr. Pioli did touch on, but they took their chances, and that's the difference at the end of the match, and unfortunately why we come away with no points. But get the goal back. We have seen on so many occasions these Milan teams get back into the match, and actually watching this one, I did feel that there were more goals to come. So, because we have seen it, unfortunately, well, there have been a few occasions this season we have gone behind, but then have got ourselves back into the match. Wasn't to be. Again, not to repeat what I said off the top, but it is a strange part of the season when now we are in the final fixtures of the campaign. Second place is secure. The other team have so much to play for. Another, not a makeshift defence, but new defenders playing together. It is tough. It is a very, very tough period. But I want to see the team finish off on a positive note this weekend, and I'm confident we will.
Yeah, we can summary saying that it was a match in which our rivals defended very well and few chances for us, Sheridan.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to draw a line under it. Obviously, Mr. Pioli was disappointed. We saw those clips of him on the touchline looking frustrated. Sometimes the manager can't do anything about it. The team he sends out, if they have a few problems or struggle somewhat, it just doesn't go your way, and that's all you can do. Put it in the archives, Lice. It's gone.
Only our number 4 on the Rossonero score sheet against Torino, Ismail Benacer, who scored a consolation goal from the penalty spot. But let's listen to his post-match reaction.
Veramente mi sento molto bene. Peccato che solo alla fine che il ritmo è tornato, ma ora non ho più problema fisica, ho più problema, sai, un po' di fiato, che era duro e il ritmo a tornare è tornato ora, sono contento e sto lavorando tantissimo e dai, spero di fare il meglio possibile per aiutare la squadra. Pioli che parte, anche Simon che ha fatto grandi cose con noi. Loro due hanno sempre aiutato veramente come hanno potuto la squadra, e andiamo a ringraziarli tantissimo perché sono grandi giocatori, grandi uomini, scusa, e quindi hanno giocato in una grande società, grande squadra, e il minimo che dobbiamo fare per loro è ringraziarli e finire bene anche per loro.
Focusing on the first part of this post-match reaction by Ismail Benacer, unfortunately, he's getting his rhythm back only at the end of the season, Sheridan.
Yeah, he's a very fit player. He's an all-action player. So when he had a long spell out injured, it was inevitable that it will take him some time to get back to the high level that we enjoyed witnessing, because he is an all-action player. He's super fit. He's a superhuman. He did a workout video during the quarantine, the lockdown, if you remember, on his social media. And his training that he does on his own account in his private life was incredible. So he is a really athletic, superhuman player. So it will take him time to get to those levels, but when he does, it's going to be a boost for Milan having him back.
Adriano?
I have to echo those comments. He was sorely missed in his time that he was absent, and of course, just getting back to now full strength, full fitness, full form. It's unfortunate the season does come to an end, but look, there's a not too long off season. They'll be back into pre-season, and he'll be back at full fitness very soon.
And as Ismail Benacer said, Olivier Giroud is leaving, and Simon Kjaer too, because our number 24 announced in an official interview with Milan TV that the next one will be his last match in Rossonero jersey. Let's listen an extract from this special content.
Ciao Simon, benvenuto.
Grazie.
Grazie di essere qui. Siamo arrivati alla fine di questa lunga avventura, ti chiedo che emozioni provi?
Tanti, positivo, negativo, però comunque è stato un paio di mesi dove avevo anche un po' la sensazione che la fine era adesso, e poi c'è una nuova avventura dopo.
Quindi senti che la fine è arrivata al momento giusto?
Sì, nel mio percorso di questi 4 anni siamo arrivati a un buon punto, ma ovviamente poteva anche ancora dare di più per dare ancora una mano, però è il momento giusto.
Dai 18 anni ad adesso hai vestito tante maglie. Perché il Milan ha qualcosa di particolare dalle altre?
Sicuramente la storia. Quando io ero un ragazzo, il top era il Milan. Ovviamente anche Paolo ha avuto un impatto su quello perché era il difensore più forte al mondo. E quando tu sei un difensore segui questi tipi di giocatori.
5 seasons for Simon Kjær with AC Milan, and he became a point of reference also for the Rossoneri fans, Adriano.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful following his journey very, very closely. Of course, it was a player who had a lot of experience in Serie A earlier in his career and then made his return, and to have had the impact that he did in these years is quite remarkable. I think he'll go down. Look, I think he's not underappreciated. I think he's absolutely appreciated, but underrated the impact he had. I think Milan fans will remember him very fondly. I do have a very cool story, Sheridan, about Simon Kjær, because obviously covering a lot of this team in my TV work that I do, and I was there at his first ever match when he was first, I think he was on loan initially before purchased, and it was a Coppa Italia match, Milan-Spal. I believe it was just before the COVID period, and he came in, and I remember Milan fans asking, who is this defender now that is suddenly starting for us? It was an unexpected signing, 3 days earlier signed, he was playing from the first minute. And Milan fans, it was just amazing to watch how quickly they fell in love with this player, because as you saw in his words, he obviously understands the value of this club. He respects the history, the tradition of this club. But then how quickly fans brought into the character and that love that he showed them, the respect he showed them. He deserved everything that he achieved at this club and more. And he's a wonderful individual for club and country. He's had some incredible moments for his country as well. And whatever he does next in his career on and off the pitch, I think he'll excel at everything he does. But this club's certainly very appreciative to have had Simon Kjær for these last years.
The show and emotions are guaranteed on Saturday night with this big goodbye, Sheridan.
Absolutely. I mean, there's two things I want to add about Kjær is that in the last 5 years, Milan have had, let's say, 2 Scandinavian leaders in the dressing room at the training ground. One has been Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who is a bombastic character, super confident. He's a huge man, a huge presence. But there are other types of leadership, and Simon Kjær's leadership was more quiet, more considered, more measured, but just as valuable. And he's been a good reference point for the younger, newer defenders in the squad. So he's been a really important part of the jigsaw, you could say. And also, we must never forget how he kept Harry Kane quiet in the Champions League when Tottenham came to Milan, or to Milan, to play Milan. And he man-marked Harry Kane, one of the best forwards in the world, and kept him very, very quiet. And he was using his know-how, because the body obviously ages and he doesn't have the physical capacities that he once had, because no one can beat Father Time, but he had the mentality and the intelligence to really do a great job. So he will be sorely missed, but his time here has been fabulous. And a pleasant surprise, as Adriano says.
And talking about the pitch, looking to the weekend against Salernitana, now the only option is to turn page and give everything against them. But what about this team, Adriano?
Well, we know the situation for Salernitana. It hasn't been the season they would have hoped for, and sadly they'll be going down to Serie B next season. But this is a celebratory evening for Milan. That's what we're focusing on. And yes, a couple of farewells, Giroud as well, that we've touched on in recent shows, and Simon Kjær, and an opportunity again for the fans to celebrate the season that has been. Obviously, there have been some aspects that haven't gone as we would have liked, but to finish off on a high and take plenty of energy into next season, I think is really important. And I think we'll see a 5-star Milan performance this weekend.
A super poker.
Super pocket. I don't know if there'll be 5 goals, but let's hope for a very strong performance and a fitting farewell for those 2 stars.
Your feelings, Sheridan?
Yeah, exactly. Finish with a football party, finish with goals, finish with smiles. Send people on their summer holidays, the fans, with a smile on their face, with something positive to think about. Because it has been a tough season, there have been highs, there have been lows, but there's a chance at the weekend to finish with some glorious football, a few goals, some smiles, some tears of joy, and then plan for next season.
And we are ready for this last season for the match day of Serie A, and the wait for a new Rossoneri shirt is almost over. Yeah. Because the new home kit for the next season is ready to make its debut on Saturday at San Siro. It will be available on Thursday, 23 May. It's really beautiful, but we talk about it in detail during our next AC Milan Talk episode. For today, that's all for Stefano Pioli's side. Good luck to our rossoneri for the match against Salernitana. And now let's move on with our women's team. Sheridan, the rossoneri signing off with a win 3-1 over Sampdoria and a Aslani brace, a goal from Marinelli on the day Fusetti retires.
A lot happened. There was a lot to take in. But in a similar way to we want it to be a party for the men's first team, it was a party atmosphere for the women as they said goodbye to the fans for the summer. Sampdoria, who had a so-so season, but they're still a team that can do some damage. It was never going to be easy, but Milan got the result on the pitch. As you said, there was some fun, some nice routines, some nice commemorative achievements or moments before the game kicked off. Laura Fusetti, long-serving central defender, said goodbye as a player. She will be staying at the club, but this is the game itself. After 4 minutes, Kosovare Aslani got everything going, and the first person she hugged, obviously, Laura Fusetti. It was a really good finish. Sampdoria's defending was a bit relaxed, I think is a diplomatic way to say it, because they left Kosovare alone not once, but if you look at it, this is almost a replica, Adriano, of the first goal.
It goes in.
Yeah, it goes in, but Kosovare Aslani was left unmarked by the Samp defenders, and I think she was a bit shocked about how simple it was herself, but we don't care, it's important that it goes in. And that was the beginning of the party atmosphere on the pitch, because that was only after 14 minutes. Sampdoria did claw one back with a looping header from their captain, Cecilia Rey. And for a few moments, it did feel a bit nervy, were Milan going to let the 2-goal lead slip? But the answer is, Adriano, they didn't, because Gloria Marinelli, with a fabulous finish to make it 3-1 and to cap the carnival atmosphere, a 3-1 victory. And as I say, there were lots of celebrations for other achievements, but this was a great finish.
And Sheridan, you were telling me the story as well. Fusetti retires now, finishes her playing days, but she's passing on her, or she's already passed on her shirt, that's correct?
Yeah, the number 6, which is a very important number in Milan folklore, worn by Franco Baresi for many years and then retired. For the women, it will be passed from Laura Fusetti to the captain of the women's youth team, champions of Italy.
We saw them last week.
Nadine Sorelli, she will be the number 6 next season. She will move into the first team squad. So it was a passing of the torch, if you like.
And Fusetti was also the first one in the rossoneri history to reach the 100 appearances with AC Milan, Sheridan.
She is in the history of AC Milan, and she's been a fabulous player, fabulous central defender. Had less of a presence this year because the club obviously are looking towards the future, trying to bring in new players. But having Laura Fusetti in the squad has been helpful, and now she will be the team manager.
Still important to have that influence over the team.
Continuity. And she'll be the team manager of the Primavera. So she's the team manager of the Primavera champions of Italy. So this is the moment with the president, Paolo Scaroni, and the head of women's football at Milan, Elisabetta Spina. There's her commemorative plate, and it was a special moment. She was very emotional, and I don't blame her. If you look closely, even though she's a tough central defender, there were a few tears there, Adriano.
You can see, but after 135 matches, 5 seasons, a lot of beautiful memories, she will be missed, and you need to replace a player. Maybe hasn't been involved as much this season, but a figure like that who has been in the dressing room.
And a lovely guard of honour, Adriano.
Fitting farewell.
In the 70th minute, she went off to sit on the bench and have a drink, to have a sit down, and a guard of honour. It was great. A great scene to witness, and fully deserved. Lots of high fives and hugs on the touchline, which we like to see.
Of course.
A week full of emotions for our rossoneri, but for today that's all for Curtis side. Now let's move on with our under-19s. Many things to say for our under-19s. Torino came back against our rossoneri, but the 3-3 draw was enough to secure a spot for us in the final round.
Absolutely. First thing, a really good match, the last match of the season against Torino. Milan were 3 goals up. We'll see it all in a second. That's just the confirmation. Milan only needed a point to get into the playoffs for the championship. And when they went 3-0 up, it looked like that was going to happen. They were on easy street. But Torino are a fine, fine team, and they made things difficult. But Milan held on and are into the playoffs, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. But I just want to have a look at the match now against Torino, look at the highlights, because it really was an emotional match. It was Torino actually had the better of the first half. Milan were playing rather conservatively by their standards. They were almost sitting back, playing an old style of football, which is against their nature. But in the second half, there were 3 goals in about 15 minutes. This is the first goal for Milan, a mistake from Torino. That was Diego Sia, really tidy finish. And Torino basically had done so well in the first half and were causing Milan problems, but they had a bit of a doze at the back. Then, not long later, it was Clinton and Ciala, one of my favourites. They're all my favourites, but
we know.
President Clinton, as I call him, made it 2-0, and Torino were starting to look like they were resigned to the fact that it wasn't to be their day. Look at this finish. You got to be there. The trick is getting there, not the finish. And then it was the counter-attack. This is the goal that made it 3-0. This is the perfect counter-attack, Adriano.
And you've got to finish them, Sheridan. You do at that time. A lot of quality. This team have been playing in this form. We spoke about coming into this match. This was effectively a final. This was the start of the playoffs. To come out like that and put 3 past Torino away from home, wonderful. But then, obviously, Torino are a good team and they found their way back.
There was a bit of a lapse from Milan, and what looked very comfortable Leeds suddenly got a bit nervy. And let's just say that when the first one went in, the Milan team suddenly just looked a bit, as I say, a bit agitated, a bit tired, and it was a very warm day. So it was quite nerve-wracking at the end. But Torino, they did get the equaliser, and they did make it 3-3. And they deserved the draw, by the way, because they are a fine team with some very exciting players. But that wasn't enough. So as a neutral, you'd probably say what a great match. As Milan folk, you would say great match, but thankfully Torino didn't turn it around and make it 4-3, because that would not be what Milan deserved, because they deserved to be in the playoffs. And the goal to make it 3-3 was a penalty, and you can see the dejection on the Milan players. I think there was an element of panic as the Torino side scored this penalty and pushed in additional time, but Milan held on.
Fortunately, not enough for them in the end. So in the end, the 3 goals Milan get enough, go through, and we saw the standings there. They're calling for that final whistle, of course. It had to come at some point, it did, and then that result is enough. They did it the hard way in the end, but they're there, they're through, and now we saw the standings, but 1 and 2 basically through to the next round of the playoffs. You could see from the standings it was Inter and Roma. Milan will play Lazio. They finished 3rd. Lazio had a draw with Empoli away from home at the weekend. So an opportunity to get the win there and go through to the semi-final stage of the competition, and another trophy potentially up for grabs. So an exciting end. You can see here. So Lazio against Milan coming up. Atalanta, Sassuolo, the other one, Roma and Inter already through there. So big clubs. A lot of quality in the Primavera here in this country, which is so wonderful for the development of our young players and young players right across the country. And a very, very good team will eventually win.
If I can just add, firstly, I'd say if you can, tune into this match. But Milan have to win. That's the key thing. A draw isn't enough because Lazio finished higher than the young Rossoneri. So it's almost a cup match.
They get the advantage of...
Exactly. If it's a draw, there's no extra time, Lazio go through. So Milan have to win. But what I've noticed with this young group is that when the pressure's on, when they have to win, they normally find the result. So I'm feeling optimistic, and I would say, if you can, tune in, because I think it could be an exciting match.
Well said.
It will be a great way to end this season, because they deserve a trophy, these young fellas.
Well done, guys. So with this excellent focus on our under-19, so we come to the end of this penultimate episode of this season. I'm very sad.
Yes, we're sad, but we're looking forward to still what's to come.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next week, and we might have the new shirt. Who knows? There's lots to be optimistic about.
So guys, see you next week for the last episode of this AC Milan Talk season, in which we will announce all the Rossoneri Awards for this 2023-2024. Thanks as always to Mighty Friends. Thank you, Adriano.
A lot of fun as always, Licia. Good luck to all our teams this weekend.
And thank you, Sheridan.
Thank you, and thank you, Adriano. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Dear Rossoneri, see you next week, as always, on our AC Milan Talk. Ciao!